So I was watching another video of Gary's economics the other day in which he was talking about this idea that money is not really finite, but it doesn't behave like a natural resource, and that the money supply somehow always adds up to zero. And I'd like to say to him, I don't think you'll find that it adds up to zero. The money supply adds up to however much money there is at any given time. And yeah, he is totally wrong on that. He's totally wrong also on this idea that money doesn't obey the laws of scarcity, that there isn't a very intimate relationship between the money supply and inflation. And for instance, if we print money faster than the economy is growing, then we gives rise to inflation. And if we hand out millions and millions of pounds to everybody, if we just start magically printing all this money and the economy isn't catching up with it, then we have a crisis of hyperinflation on our hands, and we're in the same situation as Weimar Germany. And we learned this all at school, obviously, really, when we were studying history, actually, since we mostly don't study economics at school. But yeah, the point is the same. The money supply is finite. If you print more money, you cause inflation and the money is worth less. So you can't just print an arbitrarily large amount of money. And even if you could, it would still be finite and it would still obey the laws of supply and demand economics. You know, this economics of Adam Smith, that, you know, the value of something is determined by its scarcity. If you make something too abundant, if you print too much money, then the money supply, it devalues, it becomes worthless. And this is a very important fact in economics, and it's this sort of fact upon which the whole science was established originally back in the 18th century, the late 18th century. And you know, it was Adam Smith talking about, for instance, the silver trade and what happened to the market economy of silver, the commodities markets, when more silver was discovered, and this sort of thing. And I don't really know where to begin with his economics, because I think on a level he's just coming up with it on the fly. I know that he studied a very large amount of economics, but then in his own words also, most of the economics he was taught was simultaneous equations and things like this, and inverting matrices and doing all this advanced elaborate mathematics, and not really getting to grips necessarily with Adam Smith or these texts at the core of the science itself, and these basic fundamental principles of how value is determined and things such as this. And it undermines everything I've been taught and everything I know about how economies work and how money works. And it's less clear now because we have fiat currency. We can, you know, our currency isn't actually based on anything other than nominally what the GDP's value is. And sort of the money supply is, confusingly enough, based upon the total value of goods and services produced within the economy in a given year. And so, you know, in a sense, like, instead of a gold standard, instead of there being a vault full of gold somewhere, it's based on every fridge produced by a company within a given country, or every watch that someone makes, and every bit of legal advice given by a solicitor that they charge money for. And I sort of get, well, I get that, but, you know, it doesn't mean that it still means that money, it doesn't mean that money doesn't still obey this law related to inflation, and that you can't arbitrarily increase the money supply without causing inflation, without causing currency to become worthless. And it's a fact of economics that he routinely dodges, I think. And I don't think he confronts this notion that really, because he's got more money than most people, he is depriving other people of that money in exactly the same way that if all his money were to be bound up in gold coins like it was in the olden days, you know, the fact it's in his vault as opposed to anyone else's vault, if we're going back to a time when we had vaults, it means that someone else can't own it. It's really simple stuff. It's not complicated. Actually, there's an interesting overlap with physics even, and the physics of information even. If money is to be treated as merely decimals on a computer screen, you know, it still obeys certain basic principles such as rules related to the ownership of commodities and who owns what. And you know, this is, well, these are the facts by which the banking industry operates. For instance, when we have bank accounts in our name and security measures to prevent people from getting into our bank accounts and so on and so forth, which, I mean, is still true today. We still have all this stuff. We have basic concepts of ownership and things such as this, and you know, and individual identities that are capable of owning commodities in economies. So to say that money isn't like a natural resource is totally erroneous. It sort of is like a natural resource. It's very similar. You know, even though it's not based on gold anymore, it's still based on the value of our economy. And you know, if we increase the money supply faster than the economy is capable of growing, we will end up with inflation and money will have no value. Yeah, and therefore we can't make everyone rich unless we tax the rich and redistribute it equally to everyone in society. And then we can all have GDP per capita per year, hopefully. But it's a totally erroneous point. It's a total dodge. It's sophistry. It's not worth holding up to real scrutiny, I don't think. And it fundamentally disobeys the laws of economics. So it really pisses me off.